Hey folks, this is Vint with Anti-Gaming Addiction, and welcome back to another Vintage Story Guide video. In this particular one, we'll be talking about the Pottery Age. So, lots of clay talk, how to form it, how to make it, how to get it, that kind of thing. And along with some other tidbits that might help you out in your current playthrough. Now, I'm going to assume that you already have the Stone Age all figured out. You've got your flint tools, you've got some food, you've got some shelter, and we're going to move right into clay. And as far as I know, there are two types that I found anyway. There's red clay in soil and blue clay in soil. And according to the survival handbook, red clay in soil, red clay can be found anywhere there is soil and a minimum level of rainfall. It can occur at any elevation. It will be more plentiful when soil layers are thick. It does not occur in sand or gravel, nor in extreme cold regions. Whereas the blue clay in soil is found as surface deposits in any area with high enough precipitation, so not deserts, and high enough temperature, so not the Arctic. It is only found at lower elevations near sea level. In my current playthrough, I found the blue clay in soil farther south from my starting location, but your mileage may vary. For the purposes of this example, I'll be using red clay in soil. I didn't find the blue clay in soil until much later in the game when I actually traveled south. And don't forget to mark the location on your map with a waypoint so that you can come back and get more clay should you need it. Once you have the clay in your hotbar, go ahead and look at the ground and kneel as if you were creating some kind of flint tool. Creating clay is much the same way. You're going to choose a recipe and start molding it, which is really cool. And like with the flint, you're going to have to get rid of blocks as well as add them. When you see like a yellow outline, that means you want to get rid of it. Whereas the green outlines, you want to add blocks to it. So you're going to be using the left click and the right click in different fashions in order to get that done. And you're going to be going layer by layer depending on what you're actually crafting. The bowls are very easy to make, but when you get something like a crock pot, for example, like a clay crock pot, it's going to be a bit more complicated. Luckily, you can hit F by default in order to bring up like a selection. And instead of getting rid of one block at a time, you can get rid of, say, 2 or 3 blocks at a time or add. But every time you mess up, that's something you have to fix. So, it's up to you on how you want to surgically handle that. There is also a duplicate layer feature. So if the previous layer is the same as the one that you're currently on, you can just automatically add the new layer and be done with it. So it's really helpful that way. I highly recommend that duplicate layer. It saves me a lot of time. Now, just molding it is not enough. You actually have to bake it for, I believe it's 24 hours. And to do that, you're going to dig just a simple hole, and you're going to put the items in the hole that you want to bake. And I think it's like 4 bowls, 4 crock pots, one of the larger storage containers. The holes can hold a different amount of products depending on what you put in there. And then you're going to put in some grass, and then you're going to put in some sticks, and then you're going to put in some firewood, and then you're going to light that on fire and wait 24 hours. Now, if you've done it correctly and you've waited enough time, you'll see that the pots or whatever are just sitting there, ready to be picked up. That means they're done. So go ahead and just take them, bring them inside, put them on your makeshift shelves, whatever you've got going. You can even put them on the ground if you want to. But these are ready to go. You'll have bowls that you can use to scoop food out of cooking pots, and you can eat that way, or you can scoop up water with the bowls. You can put finished meals into the crock pots. You can cook with the cooking pot. There's a lot of different things that you can do with these new clay products. Speaking of cooking, you can put the cooking pot on a fire pit in order to extend how many cooking slots you have access to, and that will allow you to make meals. Check out the survival handbook. In the latest patch, they added recipes so that you don't have to look them up on the wiki. But essentially, if you're going to make like a meat stew, it's like 2 pieces of meat. You can have 4 if you want, but 2 pieces of meat, maybe some 2 vegetables, something like that. There are optional ingredients that you can add to various meals. You'll definitely want to make the meals because you'll get a lot more satiety out of them. And on top of that, you can store finished meals in the crock pots, which is going to be useful for keeping your food fresher for longer. While we're on the subject of keeping food fresh, check out the food preservation section in the survival handbook. You can make some really cool cellars in this game, but in the beginning you're not going to have access to a lot of things or have time to make elaborate cellars. But all you got to do really is just dig a single hole in the ground and put your crock pots filled with food or meals in there and then cover it back up again. So as long as sunlight is not hitting it, that area will remain cool and keep the temperature down. That'll keep your food fresh for a lot longer. Now, it's important to note that this next part is just an example of what you could get later on in the game. You'll need to advance to the Copper Age in order to actually get the barrels and other things that you see in this next part. But you could create some really cool cellars. So we created like a 7x7x7 room, and there are limits to what qualifies as a cellar, so make sure you read up on that in the survival handbook. But as you can see, there's quite a bit here. We have several barrels filled with liquid. We've got various preservation jars. We've got crock pots filled with food. And because it's down underground and insulated very well, food tends to last down there a very long time, especially during the winter because it's super cold where we are. We're further up north in our world where the weather gets a lot more cold. And because the weather is rougher in our neck of the woods, our food actually lasts a little bit longer. So while the in-game survival handbook is great, I highly recommend you check out the Vintage Story Wiki. There's a lot of very useful information on there. Specifically the rooms section, because I had a hard time trying to figure out how to make my greenhouses work. Again, that's something much, much later. You're not going to get access to that in the Pottery Age. But I was curious, like, what qualifies as a room? What exactly does a room affect? You know, that kind of thing. So I was curious, like, should I be making my indoor rooms smaller to qualify as rooms to reap the benefits of what a room actually does? And I did. I made the switch from a large, like, efficiency apartment that was too big to be a room into several smaller rooms, and I'm noticing that my hunger bar isn't draining as quickly, because when you're in a room, you know, your need for hunger, or your need for food rather, isn't as high. And you can actually test that by going outdoors and indoors. Like if you have a qualified room, stay in there and look at your hunger need, and then go outside and check the value again. So just keep going out in, and you'll see the difference there. Also, if you're holding something in your offhand, that will also increase your hunger need. So make sure you make note of that before you try this test out. How do you know if something is qualified as a room? Well, you can simply use that trick I just said by going in and out of a room and watching your hunger level change, as it should. Or you can use the /debug rooms high command. It's there right on the wiki. And if it is a valid room, it'll light up green. If it's not, it'll highlight red. And to turn it off, that debug, you'll have to use the /debug rooms unhigh, UNHI, to remove the highlighting. And greenhouses, you know, they kind of operate the same way. You can test that there as well. Greenhouses have glass on the ceiling that allows, I guess, more sunlight in and gives a bonus of 5 degrees Celsius to everything inside. Again, greenhouses you're not going to have in the Pottery Age, so don't stress about those too much, but it is something to shoot for later on. Now, getting back to things that you can actually do, in addition to making the cooking pots and the bowls, go ahead and make these molds here. You've got a pickaxe mold, you've got hammers, you've got axes, a Falx blade, various molds. Go ahead and make them, just set them down for now. This is going to prepare you for the Copper Age, and we'll get to that in the next video. And there you have it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, and that way you can stay up to date with any new content I happen to publish. Stay tuned, there's a lot more. This is Vince, thanks for watching. I'll catch y'all next time. Take care.